everybody, Cinder Flicker here, back with another video. I really gotta make a new intro for this new name. Anyway, today we're gonna be reacting to Game Theory Five Nights at Freddy's The Monster We Missed, the YouTube video from the Game Theorists. Shoutouts to them, and all that. This video is gonna be coming out before Christmas. I had to make a video, so Merry Christmas to all of you guys, and have a Happy New Year. Anyway, let's get into today's video. Oh, I almost forgot. If you are at all new here, hit that like button down below, and the subscribe button right here, and the notification bell right there, in order to become a part of the, the Phoenix Squad. Subscribe if you're not new, if you're new here, and hit the like button if you like this video. Oh, and please, I am begging you, please, put some comments down below. Anyway, let's get into today's video and State Farm ad.
Own insurance. Thanks, Steph. No more driving that old hand-me-down.
The books offer a closer peek at Henry and William Afton, how their partnership flourished early on, and how their view of the animatronics evolved over time. Thoughtful fans might want to give these sections a closer look to determine how they impact the story of the games as well. Right there, clear as crystal. For years, I've been trying to piece together the story of these games, right? But one thing has always served as a major sticking point, and that thing has been these books. Now, admittedly, these books entered the series at a tough time. FNAF 4 had released a few months prior, the game that, to this day, serves as the single biggest point of frustration for anyone trying to piece together the lore. Scott always trolls us. See also the repeated use of the name Jeremy. But this one game was just too much. It was a game that played with so many different ideas. It played with dreams and dates and bites and balloon boys and new characters and new toys, kids that looked like established characters. I mean, what was real, what wasn't, no one had any idea, and still to this day, we are at a loss about what this game means for the entire franchise as a whole. And then, shortly after that, FNAF World would enter the picture, and well, we all know how well that one went. So, needless to say, it was a sensitive time for the series, and sandwiched in between it all was the Silver Eyes, the start of the novels, a story set in the FNAF universe, but not really? Question mark? Scott Cawthon, when the books first came out, tried to make it clear what role these played in the greater story, but I don't know if it helped things. Here's his quote. "The truth is that after a while, lore can become so dense that there isn't any room for a story anymore. Another truth is that what makes for a good game doesn't necessarily make for a good book. Sometimes a timeline gets so full that the only way to tell a real story is have that story set in a different timeline, an alternate universe, a different location, or perhaps from a vantage point that isn't entirely what it appears to be." It's an interesting quote. True to Scott's style, it doesn't give anything away. I mean, everyone immediately latched onto this idea that the books were somehow a separate and alternate universe, but if you come back and read that quote again, like I just did here for the first time in years,
Matpat explains this entire thing.
Writing this script, it's actually only one of the possibilities that he raised. In fact, now that all three of the books have come out and completed the main story arc, we actually know what they really were. It was that last thing, a vantage point that wasn't entirely what it appeared to be. Now, spoiler alert for the books, but basically at the end of this one, the grand finale, Fourth Closet, it's revealed that our main character, Charlie, is an animatronic recreation of a dead girl. That the brilliant roboticist Henry, co-founder of Freddy's, had a daughter named Charlotte, who was kidnapped and killed by his partner, William Afton, at the age of 3. And that, out of his grief, he rebuilt her, and that the character that we've been following for all three of these books isn't actually a human being, but just a glorified animatronic that grows older with time. Now, it sounds really weird, but here, let me explain. So, the 4 closets, what that's in reference to, basically, Henry created 4 versions of that robot, each one meant to simulate a different life stage that she would never get to experience. Toddler, tween, teen, adult. Thus allowing this robot child to grow up over time. infusing each one of those robots with fabricated memories of a childhood he created using a camera and tripod. And if you think that sounds weird, then you haven't finished reading this book, my friends, because this book jumps so many sharks. But that is nothing compared to what this book does to the animatronic Baby that we all know and love. Baby, you know, the clown girl. Well, in the books, she's actually the perfect fourth adult version of Charlotte, but she's also the robot that still, like we see in the games, devours William Afton's daughter Elizabeth and then goes on to get possessed by her. So this one robot is simultaneously Elizabeth's soul inside of Charlie's adult body, but in addition to dancing and singing and extruding out ice cream, she also has the ability to switch between looking like a passable human, so much so that a character in here actually gets aroused by her. No joke. And also expanding somehow into a giant clown-shaped robot, the one that we all know and love. She does this by using a combination of needles with little balls on the end as well as sound illusion discs. I mean, how ridiculous is this, right? It's a good thing nothing that stupid appears in the games.
Needles with balls on the end.
Yep, they're in the games, aren't they? They are, actually. If you look at Baby's design as it's presented in the games, you see exactly what this book is talking about. The needles with the little balls on the end, and yeah, even the weirdo sound illusion discs. You might see where I'm going with this, right? Well, many hardcore fans want to dismiss the books and treat them as a separate entity, wall them off entirely from what's going on in the games. You just can't. This book right here, Silver Eyes, is what allowed me to know that Purple Guy's name was going to be revealed as William Afton before Sister Location actually revealed that to be the case.
Those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton.
He lied.
Nailed it already! These are the things that confirm that Susie and Fritz were missing children's incident victims before it appeared in FNAF 6. The fourth closet explained what Candy Cadet's stories were all about. 5 animatronics, 5 souls, all melted down into one entity. But because my theories based on the books tended to frustrate hardcore community members, I backed off of using them. But here we are now, me sitting on the couch reading this, the Freddy Files Updated Edition, which, in addition to including more fan art than a typical game theory episode, also has that quote that I mentioned from earlier. Here on page 222, second to last page in the book, thoughtful fans might want to give these sections about Henry and William a closer look to determine how they impact the story of the games as well. It's no denying it now, friends. These things, right over here, these 3, they're important. They are here to stay. So, for today's theory, I threw away everything. All our assumptions, all the things that I thought we had solved from the games. And I took a fresh, clean look at this franchise, this time starting from the perspective of the books. And that brought me down.
Anything in that building is a target.
Down an insane thought train. Now, I don't necessarily think that today's theory is right. I definitely think that there are plenty of holes in it, but I also don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for the story that Scott is trying to tell. It's a theory that's worth chewing on, because it simultaneously overturns a lot of the assumptions that we've made about this series, while also filling in a lot of logical holes in the timeline of events. This is a big one, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. Big like what we missed in FNAF 4, kind of big. Here's my theory for you today. Mustard Man. You know, orange guy from FNAF 6. I'm gonna say he's Henry, original creator of the animatronics, co-owner of Fredbear's Family Diner. That would make this Henry's house. In turn, that would thereby make FNAF 4 his house as well. And if that's his house, then this is Henry's son, and this is Henry's other son. That's right. Crying Child isn't any member of the Afton family. He is Henry's son. And then that would make this and this Henry's daughter. And therefore, this then would be Henry's daughter's empty room. Now, hold on. I am sure there are plenty of you hardcore FNAFers out there who are ready to tear this huge list apart. This is clearly the Afton household. We have established this time and time again since the release of Sister Location, but stay with me. Sit back, relax. Who am I kidding? Pull out your pen and paper, start taking notes for your angry rage comment down below. This is a FNAF theory unlike anything we've ever talked about, so...
Let's just jump into it.
So I already told you the big reveal at the end of the fourth closet, that our protagonist Charlie is a robot built in the image of Henry's dead daughter. But there is one last twist here. On the very last page of the book, we go to visit Charlie's grave. The real Charlie. The child who was kidnapped and killed at an early age. It's a grave that ends up high on a hill under a lone tree, similar to a very familiar scene that we see in the games at the end of FNAF 6, the gravestone ending. And on it, we're told the following words were etched into the stone. Beloved daughter, Charlotte Emily, 1980 to 1983. First off, her last name is Emily? I mean, there's no other name written here, so that isn't her middle name. So Henry's last name is Emily? We're talking about the Emily family household? It's just weird. I mean, this is a book series filled with animatronics that are possessed by human children and metallic soul glue, but Emily as your last name? That has to be the single largest stretch of imagination out there. And no offense to anyone with Emily as their actual last name. I know it's a real thing. I'm just over-exaggerating my rage for comedic effect. But the important thing here is the date, right? Born in 1980, died in 1983. 83. Should sound familiar, right? Well, why does it matter? FNAF 4. FNAF 4, a game that ends with someone getting themselves bitten, is not depicting the bite of 87 like we all assumed when we first saw that scene, but instead is a game that is set in the year 1983. It frustrated everyone. I mean, why would you choose to do that, Scott? It made no sense for the story that we had become familiar with by that point in the series. It made no sense until today. We know that the gravestone is real. We know that Henry truly has a daughter who dies and goes on to become the puppet in the games. So what if that death took place in 1983 like we see in the book? Opens up a lot of possibilities. You see, the other thing that never quite gets explained is this empty girls' room that we're allowed to explore throughout FNAF 4's minigame. Clearly, there's a reason it's here, but we never get a clue as to why or who that room could belong to. This, in turn, led all us FNAF theorists to speculate why.
Okay, let me make something clear. The low resolution on matpat's face, that's his video, not mine.
Wildly about the owner of this room. Anyone with 2 X chromosomes was up for debate.
Told you.
This pigtail girl, and that was it. Honestly, because she was literally the only girl that was introduced into the series at this point. Later, when Sister Location came out, we got ourselves a second girl. And everyone celebrated. It was Afton's daughter, Elizabeth, so that room had to be hers, right? I mean, the game was even alluding to it being hers because it was the Sister Location. But let's stop for a minute and question all of those assumptions, because that's what they are, really. There's not a whole lot of proof here. What if that girl's room in FNAF 4 belonged to Charlie? Charlotte, Henry's daughter, who dies in 1983. I mean, the room is empty, after all. And we're not seeing a whole heck of a lot of girls wandering around the playground area. And the year certainly matches the year of the disappearance and death from the books. Could that girl's room in FNAF 4 actually be Charlotte Emily's room? Could this whole house from FNAF 4 actually be the Henry Emily household? Consider this. In the second novel, The Twisted Ones, a climactic final battle happens in an underground animatronic facility. Sounds a bit like our Sister Location. When our heroes emerge to the surface, they find themselves in the ruins of a familiar house.
Sorry about, I have to cut this one short, but if this video gets around 10 likes, no time limit, just 10 likes, then I'll do a part 2 of this video. I'm really interested in doing finishing this off in a video, so please hit that like button. And a portion of you are not subscribed yet, so those of you, you know who you are, please hit that subscribe button. More members of the community, the better. Also, like I said in the beginning, leave a comment down below and hit that little bell icon down below as well. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And that's all for today's video, everybody. Goodbye!